Acharya, teacher, Vaishnavananda, of the name Vaishnavananda, Bhakti, devotional service, Adhikari, fit candidate, Purve, previously, Nama, name, Chila, was, Yanra, whose, Raghunatha Puri, of the name Raghunath Puri. Translation. The 27th prominent devotee of Nityananda Prabhu was Acharya Vaishnavananda, a great personality in devotional service. He was formerly known as Raghunath Puri. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Gaura Ganadesh Deepika, verse 97, it is said that Raghunath Puri was previously very powerful in the 8 mystic successors. He was an incarnation of one of the successors. So we'll read a few more verses this morning, everyone. Text 43, translation. Another important devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu was Vishnu Das, who had 2 brothers, Nandan and Gangadas. Lord Nityananda Prabhu sometimes stayed at their house. Purport. The 3 brothers, Vishnu Das, Nandan and Gangadas, were residents of Navadvip and belonged to the Bhattacharya Brahmana family. Both Vishnu Das and Gangadas stayed for some time with Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri, and the Chaitanya Bhagavat states that formerly Nityananda Prabhu stayed at their house. Text 44, translation. Paramananda Upadhyaya was Nityananda Prabhu's great servitor. Sri Jiva Pandit glorified the qualities of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Purport. Sri Paramananda Upadhyaya was an advanced devotee. His name is mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, where Sri Jiva Pandit is also mentioned as the 2nd son of Ratnagarbha Acharya and a childhood friend of Hadai Oja, the father of Nityananda Prabhu. In the Gaura Ganadesh Deepika, verse 169, it is said that Sri Jiva Pandit was formerly the gopi named Indira. Text 45, translation. The 31st devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu was Paramananda Gupta, who was greatly devoted to Lord Krishna and highly advanced in spiritual consciousness. Formerly, Nityananda Prabhu also resided at his house for some time. Purport. Paramananda Gupta composed a prayer to Lord Krishna known as Krishna Stavavali. In the Gaura Ganadesh Deepika, verse 194, it is stated that he was formerly the gopi named Manju Meda. Text 46, translation. The 32nd, 33rd, 34th and 35th prominent devotees were Narayan, Krishnadas, Manohara and Devananda, who always engaged in the service of Lord Nityananda. Text 47, translation. The 36th devotee of Lord Nityananda was Hoda Krishnadas, whose life and soul was Nityananda Prabhu. He was always dedicated to the lotus feet of Nityananda, and he knew no one else but him. Purport. The residence of Krishnadas Hoda was Badagachi, which is now in Bangladesh. Text 48, translation. Among Lord Nityananda's devotees, Nakadi was the 37th, Mukunda the 38th, Surya the 39th, Madhava the 40th, Sridhar the 41st, Ramananda the 42nd, Jagannath the 43rd, and Mahidara the 44th. Purport. Sridhar was the 12th Gopala. Text number 49, translation. Sri Manta was the 45th, Gokula Das the 46th, Hariharananda the 47th, Shivai the 48th, Nandai the 49th, and Paramananda the 50th. Text 50, translation. Vashanta was the 51st, Navani Hoda the 52nd, Gopal the 53rd, Sanatan the 54th, Vishnai the 55th, Krishnananda the 56th, and Sulochan the 57th. Purport. Navani Hoda appears to have been the same person as Hoda Krishnadas, the son of the king of Badagachi. His father's name was Hari Hoda. One can visit Badagachi by taking the Lala Gola Ghat railway line. Formerly the Ganges flowed by Badagachi, but now it has become a canal known as the Kalshira Kal. Near the Madagachi station is a village known as Shaligram, in which King Krishnadas arranged for the marriage of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, as described in the Bhakti Ratnakara, Taranga 12. It is sometimes said that Navani Hoda was the son of Raj Krishnadas. His descendants still live in Rukunapura, a village near Bahiragachi. They belong to the Dakshina Radhiya Kayasta community, but having been reformed as Brahmanas, they still initiate all classes of men. Text 51, translation. The 58th great devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu was Kamshari Sain. The 59th was Rama Sain. The 60th was Ramachandra Kaviraj. And the 61st, 62nd, and 63rd were Govinda, Sri Ranga, and Mukunda, who were all physicians. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Ramachandra Kaviraj, the son of Kanavashi Chiranjiva and Sunanda, was a disciple of Srinivasacharya and the most intimate friend of Narottam Das Thakur, who prayed several times for his association. His youngest brother was Govinda Kaviraj. Srila Jiva Goswami very much appreciated Sri Ramachandra Kaviraj's great devotion to Lord Krishna and therefore gave him the title Kaviraj. Sri Ramachandra Kaviraj, who was perpetually disinterested in family life, greatly assisted in the preaching work of Srinivasacharya and Narottam Das Thakur. He resided at first in Srikhanda, but later in the village of Kumara Nagara on the bank of the Ganges. Govinda Kaviraj was the brother of Ramchandra Kaviraj and youngest son of Chiranjiva of Srikhanda. Although at first a Shakta or worshipper of goddess Durga, he was later initiated by Srinivasacharya Prabhu. Govinda Kaviraj also resided first in Srikhanda and then in Kumara Nagara, but later he moved to the village known as Talia Budhari on the southern bank of the river Padma. Since Govinda Kaviraj, the author of two books, Sangita Madhava and Caitanya, was a great Vaishnav Kavi or poet, Srila Jiva Goswami gave him the title Kaviraj. He is described in the Bhakti Ratnakara 9th Taranga. Kamshari Sain was formerly Ratnavali in Braja, as described in Gaura Ganadesh Deepika, verse 194 and 200. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmanitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Gurim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual masters very kindly come, forced open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my most respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, the saviour of all fallen souls. By his grace, even a lame man can cross over mountains, a blind man can see stars in the sky, and a dumb man can recite eloquent Vedic poetry. So we did attempt to research many of these wonderful eternal associates of Mahaprabhu described in some of the previous verses, and Prabhupada has given very concise explanations of some of their glories in his purports. I think the saying goes, I can't remember, it'll come back. Is it eloquence? Is truth spoken concisely? Yes, thank you. Came back. So everyone, I thought to focus further discussion on the personality Srila Prabhupada glorifies in this purport mentioned in this last text, and that is Ramchandra Kaviraj, because there is quite a lot of information about him. In the Caitanya Caritamrita, but also in two other wonderful books, three in fact, Kavi Kanapur's wonderful Who's Who of Adi-lila and Krishna-lila, but also in the Bhakti Ratnakar and also the Narottam Vilas. And both of these books are authored by Narahari Chakravarti. So we'll just read a little bit more. There's some biographical sketches here. There is a little bit of overlapping, a little bit of repetitiveness, but if things are very worthwhile hearing, if we hear them twice or thrice, no harm. So, Ramachandra Kaviraj, the son of Sri Chiranjiva Sain, eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya, appeared in Sri Khanda. Ramachandra Kaviraj was especially earnest, beautiful, intelligent, energetic, and enthusiastic, said one biographer. Although married, Ramachandra and his wife, Ratnanala, had no material attachments. They stayed fully engaged in the loving service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They had no children. With steadfast devotion, he served his spiritual master, Srinivasacharya, in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, Sri Jiva Goswami gave him the title Kaviraj, King of Poets. Srila Narottam Das Thakur Mahashai has sung, O Acharya Prabhu Srinivas, please bestow your mercy upon me. I pray that I might also have the association of Ramachandra. Sri Ramachandra Kaviraj was the disciple of Srinivasacharya Prabhu and the very intimate friend of Narottam Das Thakur. His father was Chiranjiv Sain and mother Sri Sunanda. Chiranjiva was originally an inhabitant of Kumara Nagara, but after marrying the daughter of Sri Damodar Kavi, he moved to Sri Khanda. Chiranjiv was a pure devotee, very much loved by Narahari Saka and the other residents of Sri Khanda. He was extremely learned in all matters, and his wife was very chaste and gentle. Her activities were completely transcendental. So I'll just skip a little bit forward here. All right. So we're just going to go to a little bit more. Another little brief biographical sketch. All right. Yes, this is wonderful. So there's many beautiful verses composed by Ramchandra Kaviraj, and we'll mention one of those in just a moment. Yes, let's just. Yes, this is the one. This is a beautiful verse. So I'll attempt to recite, I think it's Sanskrit or the Bengali. Prakashila Mahaprabhu Hare Krishna mantra Premera vadana kare barila samsara anda avadhi yata kare parsha bindu na padila muke Ramachandra dasa. This is composed by Ramachandra Kaviraj. Sriman Mahaprabhu is so kind that he manifests the nectar of the Hare Krishna mantra. The holy name will free all souls from the cycle of birth and death, from lower planets, from hell. The holy name will give one a taste of divine love for Radha Madhava. Whether blind or dumb, anyone can drown in this flood of prema. In this way, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu has filled everyone with love of God. But Ramachandra Das is so unfortunate that he couldn't even taste a drop of that nectar. Ramachandra Kaviraj was one of the 8 Kavirajas, famous poet disciples of Srinivasacharya. Ramachandra wrote Smarana Dapana, Smarana Chamatkara, Siddhanta Chandrika. He preached widely and initiated many disciples. Narottam Das Thakur and Ramachandra lived together as best friends. Narottam Das wrote Doya Kore Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas Ramachandra Sangamagi Narottamo Das. O Srinivasacharya Prabhu, please give me your mercy. Narottam Das always prays for the association of Ramachandra Kaviraj. In the form of Karna Manjari, he serves Srimati Radharani in Adi-lila. His samadhi is in Dira Samira Kunj next to Srinivasacharya. So just a little bit more there about Ramachandra Kaviraj. So, and some other important points that we can reflect upon. And some very famous pastimes of Ramachandra Kaviraj. The meeting of Ramachandra Kaviraj and his spiritual master Srinivasacharya is very wonderful. It's said there was a marriage ceremony, and according to some it was actually at that time that both Srinivasacharya and Ramachandra Kaviraj saw each other for the first time, and there was immediate attraction between these two great souls. And the next day they actually had a formal meeting after they saw each other in the marriage procession. One was being carried in a very opulent palanquin with his bride, and the other was observing. And the next day there was a very, very wonderful meeting between the two. And Srinivasacharya revealed his heart and soul to Ramachandra Kaviraj that you and I have been friends for a very long time, for many, many, many lifetimes, in fact. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given a wonderful description of devotional friendship, intimate, selfless friendship with the devotees, is how Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes. So, and we know we have the Sanskrit term surit, which means someone who is a really, really close friend, who you can depend on. There are different types of friends, of course, friendships in this world, but surit means very, very close, a friend who will be with you at all different times of your life, both good and bad. And we all know that life consists of both wonderful, auspicious occasions and other times when things are very challenging. So this is the type of deep friendship that was there. And of course we can just go back a little bit to refresh that we know Narottam Srinivas and Shamananda Prabhus were three of the most famous disciples of Srila Jiva Goswami, who was the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan. And Srila Jiva Goswami established his own school in Vrindavan. And those three great souls were there learning the great science of bhakti as taught by Mahaprabhu and the Goswamis, studying their literatures there. And then they eventually moved back to regions in Bengal and Orissa where they had formerly lived. And it was there that, of course, they made many, many wonderful disciples. So, and one of those disciples, of course, was Ramchandra Kaviraj and his younger brother, Govinda Kaviraj. So, after this first meeting, Ramchandra Kaviraj became very inspired by hearing from Srinivasacharya over a period of time, and eventually asked him for initiation, which was very mercifully granted to him. And when he returned to his own village, it caused some consternation. Some anger was perpetrated upon Ramchandra Kaviraj by his family members who, as we read, were actually worshippers of Durga and her consort Lord Shiva. And in fact, Ramchandra Kaviraj and his younger brother Govinda also had been worshipping Durga Devi. Even though their father, Chiranjiva, was a great devotee of Lord Caitanya and an associate of Mahaprabhu who would regularly go on the pilgrimages to Jagannath Puri every year, Chiranjiva had passed away at a fairly young age, and his two sons were placed in the care of their grandfather, who was a Shakta, and he raised them and taught them and trained them in the worship of Durga. Just like coming up, if it hasn't happened already, in Bengal and all over India and all over the world, is Durga Puja. Does anybody know? It's coming up, yes? It's just now gone. Okay. So, and of course those who follow Sriman Sadbhuj Prabhu know, because our Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir is very famous throughout Bengal and India, and especially the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium, which is due for grand opening, perhaps the year after next, perhaps. Ramai Maharaj, we will see 2024 or 25 grand opening. Already becoming so famous that the worshippers of Durga Devi, they are already using the images of the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium for their very opulent and gorgeous facades for Durga Puja. So that's very prestigious for Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir. So this was there, and so family members became very upset when Ramchandra Kaviraj arrived back at his village with the 12 sacred markings of Gaudiya Vaishnav, tilak, and kuntimala, neck beads, shaven head with sika, Brahman thread, all indications that he'd taken Vaishnav Diksha. So this caused some upset. But he had been so wonderfully trained in such a short time by Srinivasacharya in the teachings of the Goswamis that he was able to very easily defeat all the arguments of the Shaktas, was able to present pure Krishna consciousness, pure bhakti, explaining how even Lord Shiva, Durga, Lord Brahma, what to speak of lesser demigods, they're all servants of Sri Krishna. So this was a wonderful occasion, and he went on to make many of his own disciples at that time. And Of course, yes, they were offering different arguments and so on, but he defeated all of those very, very easily. So, and then he had a desire to visit Vrindavan. But before departing for Vrindavan, he sought the blessings of all of the senior Vaishnavas in that location, and they all very enthusiastically urged him, yes, you must visit Vrindavan. Just like coming up is Kartik, not too far away. So many of our devotees make plans at this time of the year to visit Sri Brajadam and go on parikramas and hear from the many very advanced followers of Srila Prabhupada who are also visiting there or residing there permanently and know all of Krishna's and Srimati Radharani's wonderful pastimes with their associates in all of the holy places. So he did like that, visited Vrindavan, and as Srila Prabhupada mentions, when the devotees in Vrindavan, the associates of the Goswamis, and the Goswamis themselves, understood what a great literary person, what a scholar that he was, Ramchandra Kaviraj, they conferred upon him this title, Kaviraj. Up until that time he was just known as Ramachandra Das. And he visited all of the 12 forests of Vrindavan and all of the major temples, and I think Srila Sanatana Goswami had passed away by that time, so he went and offered his obeisances at his samadhi. Some of the other Goswamis were still residing there, so he took full advantage of their association, went and met Raghunath Das Goswami at Radhakunda and was embraced by him. So wonderful, wonderful pastimes, beautifully described in full in Bhakti Ratnakara. So, yes, and it's an important point that he got the blessings before he endeavoured to go to Vrindavan, because we know amongst Mahaprabhu's followers, dainya, or absolute humility, as described by Sanatana Goswami in his wonderful commentary on the Brihad Bhagavat Amrita. Dainya is the foremost quality every aspiring devotee of Krishna must have in order to enter into the Lord's supreme abode, Goloka Vrindavan. He also visited on his pilgrimage north Gaya, Kashi, Prayag, Mathura, and so on. So, and of course, Jiva Goswami conferred unlimited mercy upon Ramchandra Kaviraj. He was very interested to hear how all the devotees were doing in Bengal and Orissa. So they had many deep, profound discussions about the well-being of Mahaprabhu's remaining associates and all of their disciples. And then we have no discussion of Ramachandra Kaviraj would be complete without this pastime. But before we move to that, we just want to make sure that we have covered all of these others, at least in some detail. Yes. All right. So, around the same time, Narottam Das Thakur arrived in that particular location, or not far away. And there were two wonderful dreams. Narottam Das Thakur had a dream where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in person and explained to Narottam Das that he was sending him a very wonderful assistant to help Narottam Das spread his teachings, Lord Chaitanya's teachings, in that particular part of Bengal and Orissa. And his name was Ramachandra Kaviraj. And at the same time, Ramachandra Kaviraj, the same night, had a similar dream that Narottam was coming, and that they would associate very closely together, and in this way spread Mahaprabhu's sublime teachings. So this, of course, enunciated or took place, and as we all know, on the disappearance anniversaries of our predecessor acharyas, we delight in singing the famous song of Narottam Das Thakur, Ye Anilo Premadana, where he very much laments the loss of his dear friend Ramchandra Kaviraj, and how it's described they were like one mind in two bodies. They thought the same. They meditated identically on the deep, sublime teachings of Mahaprabhu, and everyone understood them in that way. So now the most exciting pastime we have come to, and actually there's two. We'll see how we go for time here. So on one occasion, around this time of the year, Durga Puja, there were two Brahmin boys, and their names were Hari Rama and Ramakrishna, and they had been sent by their father to procure baby goats for sacrifice to Kali. Not only goats, but sheep and small buffaloes also, but primarily goats, which are sacrificed at this time of the year, Durga Puja. So both Narottam Das and Ramachandra Kaviraj, they were engaged in some philosophical discussions on the bank of the Padma River when these two boys happened by. And the two boys, who were born in Brahmin families but were being trained by their fathers and uncles in the worship of Durga Devi, they happened to hear these profound teachings being discussed by the two Goswamis. So they stopped and they listened, and they became so affected that they approached them and made submissive inquiries. And Ramchandra Kaviraj and Narottam Das, they convinced the boys of the super excellence of Mahaprabhu's teachings, and that they should disregard the worship of Durga. There was no need. So, and the boys stayed with them, and it just happened to be a very auspicious day, and each of the great souls initiated one of the boys. Narottam initiated Ramakrishna, and Ramachandra Kaviraj initiated Hari Rama, and they never went home. And they let the baby goats loose, and they stayed with them, and they received more instruction and training. And eventually, of course, when they did go home, their fathers and uncles were very upset with them, and that created a big problem, because Narottam Das Thakur was not born. He was a prince. He was born into fabulous wealth, kayasta, caste, administrators. But empowered representative. This Bhakti Ratnakara's chapters are described as waves. And any of us who used to once upon a time flounder in the ocean from time to time know that there are waves. The second wave of the set is always the best. But anyway, that's another mundane topic, surfing. But anyway, this Bhakti Ratnakara describes waves, and there were waves of devotees of Mahaprabhu, one after another. So, and a big aspect of Mahaprabhu's teachings, of course, is no discrimination depending on caste. Whatever caste you're born in, is irregardless. Mahaprabhu's Patita Pavana, he's distributing his mercy freely to everyone, irregardless of what type of birth one has. So Narottam Das Thakur was causing some agitation, more than a little agitation. So much so that this was brought to the attention of the king at that time, Raj Narasingha, by the caste Brahmins, who were very upset that this Kayastha Narottam was initiating even Brahmins. So a conspiracy. Conspiracies are not a new thing. Conspiracies have been around for a long time. So the conspiracy was hatched that this Narottam has to be defeated. So Raj Narasingha was approached by the Brahmins and one Rupa Narayan Pandit. He was a Digvijay Pandit, world-conquering. He was elected to go and to defeat Narottam and to re-establish the caste Brahmins as the leaders of society. So they hatched a plan, the conspiracy was hatched, that they would go and they would defeat them. But news arrived earlier, and Ramchandra and Kaviraj was alerted to this, that and one other disciple who was born in a Brahmin family, his name is Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, who was also a disciple of Narottam. They went when they knew that the king and all the Brahmins were coming to cause some trouble. They were not concerned because they knew Narottam was such a great devotee and scholar. He could easily defeat this so-called Rupa Narayan, Digvijay. So they went, and on the village just outside Keturi, where Narottam was residing, they went in disguise. Rather than looking like Vaishnavas and Brahmins, they went in very, very plain dress, and one set up a pan store, and the other set up a store selling pottery, pots. And Brahmins are very accustomed to buying these things every morning for their sadhana, for their puja. So sure enough, the next morning, some of the lesser Brahmins came and were purchasing what they needed for their puja and so on. And Ramchandra Kaviraj and his good friend Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, they engaged these Brahmins in philosophical discussion in fluent Sanskrit, which was generally only spoken by very, very high-class Brahmins in those days, not in the local dialects. So these Brahmins were very shocked, and the two of them asked them profound philosophical questions which these Brahmins couldn't answer. And then the two of them would answer their own questions. And then they'd ask them another profound philosophical question based on Shastras, which they couldn't answer. So this really frightened the Brahmins, and they asked them, "Who are you?" And the two said, "We are very lowly disciples of Narottam Das Thakur. So we are very insignificant, lowly disciples of Narottam Das Thakur." So these Brahmins went back to the king, Raj Narasingha, and Rupa Narayan Pandit, and they said, "We have a problem. The disciples of this Narottam, they speak Sanskrit, and they're just a panwala and selling pots. What must their guru be?" So the conspiracy to defame Narottam was quickly abandoned. And that night, not before that night, Durga herself appeared to both the king and the pundit and said, "You don't know who you're trying to defame. And if you go ahead with this, then I'm severely going to chastise you." And she was waving her chopper. So they took that dream very seriously, and the next day they went and they actually surrendered to Narottam Das Thakur. They became his disciples as well. So I better stop there, right on time. Don't know if anybody has a question or a comment. Sure. Do we have a microphone? Sometimes we have a microphone. You'll be broadcast all over the 3 worlds. Are you okay with that? All right, let's see if we have one. Just hold your question for a moment. Otherwise I can repeat it. But repeated questions don't go intergalactically or internationally like yours will. Thank you for coming, giving up some of your valuable time.
With the 12 sacred markings that you mentioned, and shortly after you mentioned he visited 12 forests, and I was just wondering, did he gather from each forest? Are they connected in any way, or that's just a coincidence?
That's just a coincidence. But nice question. Yeah, sometimes there are connections. 108 is considered very auspicious. You may know. Are you chanting? You've got some beads. You're chanting on japa. So there's 108 beads. You know that. There is also 108 principal Upanishads, which are a very important block of Vedic literatures. There's 108 principal gopis. And did Krishna have 108 groups of cows? I think. So yes, sometimes there is connection. Yeah. You're welcome. Welcome. Pleasure. Vaishnavi has a question. You can stay there, Vaishnavi. We have microphone in movement.
Thank you for the class. You mentioned about sometimes we hear in the Bhagavatam and the scriptures that great devotees, they have dreams. So we hear that those are the Lord actually comes, or his dear devotees actually come to that person. But what about, if someone says, I had a dream that I should do such and such, or I had a dream about my spiritual master and they say I should do such and such. What would you say? How would you advise someone to assess whether that dream is
Sure.
from the Lord or just something?
Well, all I can say is that it is said that dreams where one's spiritual master appears to one in the dream are very significant. But, and Prabhupada is the case in point where he had dreams where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati appeared on several occasions and urged him to leave home and to preach Krishna consciousness all over the world. And Prabhupada took those dreams very, very seriously, and we're all the fortunate recipients, fortunate souls who, as a result of taking those dreams very seriously, are now sitting here in this beautiful temple room discussing Caitanya Caritamrita and practicing bhakti. So that would be the extent. Anyone else want to add anything about dreams? I did actually have a dream last night of Prabhupada, probably because I was in so much anxiety about giving class this morning. So Prabhupada appeared. It's a little dream.
I just wanted to share my spiritual master. Sometimes he likes to joke, Krishna Goswami, and he was saying that sometimes a disciple will say, "Oh, Gurudev, I had a dream about you. You told me to do such and such." And he says, "I never said that." So he likes to joke sometimes like that we need to verify that dream with the spiritual master if he's present.
Sure. Yeah, we've heard that. Sometimes that is the case, but I never take any dream, and I've only had a few where Prabhupada's appeared in dreams, and I take them very seriously. And of course, one could say, in one way, he isn't here for us to verify, but in other ways he is still here, and I just take it I just consider it an absolute blessing, and just so grateful whenever, and they're always wonderful. All right, I might stop there. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai.